Today, I'm talking about a book that makes me question if I've just been on the internet for way too long. So, hello, my name is Zach, and on this channel, it's mostly science fiction and fantasy book reviews, but I do read a bunch of other things like comics, manga, business, personal development, and yes, technology sort of ish books. And that's what I'm talking about today, which is Cory Doctorow's Enshittification. Why just the internet is just continually getting worse. So, what drew me to this is that, yes, I've been on the internet for way too long. I remember the golden days when dial up was king. That was the only way with our 14.4 modem. We had to dial in on the phone line, connecting through AOL, and eventually finally getting access to the wider internet outside of AOL. And those were the good old days when the internet promised a democratization of information and everything in commerce. Those are the glory days, the late 90s. Again, aging myself. So those were, yeah, the early days of the internet when everyone had their own website. It was live journal. It was pre MySpace and pre Facebook. This is when the promise of the early internet was in full swing. And as Doctorow sort of explains as he goes through the book, we have now gotten to our current state of the internet, which I'm sure we can all relate to. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's evident on YouTube, it's evident on Facebook, and the internet has just gotten worse for the average user with kind of, I guess, maybe the rise of social media, but is more the enshittification, which Doctor describes as the way platforms, and it's mostly about platforms, how first they extract value from the user and then they extract value from the provider. So, like the ads providers, and it's kind of a downward spiral of optimization that's eventually just makes platforms and things worse. So this was very interesting to read. It's along the lines of books like Careless People. So you've read that account of Meta and slash Facebook and how some of the behind the scenes dealing. I think this is a great follow up to Careless People and how platforms and the internet in general regulations are shaping how we interact with things. One of the concrete examples that stood out to me that I think everyone can relate to is printers. If you remember, yes, in the before times, you could use third party ink on your printer. It was no problem to buy an HP printer for, back in the day, maybe $50, and then getting off brand ink. But now, through, as Dr. Rose shows in the book, through DMCA, that by circumventing the now like chip that's in your print ink cartridge that has to talk to each other, you're essentially breaking into your printer and it's illegal to use off-brand ink cartridges. So little things like that is how the internet is just getting worse. It's this optimization of monetary locking you into paid systems. Another example that really rings true because I work in higher ed at the moment is talking about textbooks and how you, in before times, I remember when I went for my first degree way back in the day that yes, you could go to a used bookstore, right? That used textbooks were a thing, but now how textbooks have a unique login code that because everything is online on a platform, it's part of a subscription that you can't necessarily use an old textbook without also signing up for the subscription and the online content that yes, it's making of course, maybe the professor's job's easier. Everything's centralized. It's all online. It's all linked in together with the grading and the assignments and the pacing. But at the same time, yes, there's no used book market. They killed basically the used book market by moving a lot of these required modules to the internet, and now it's part of a platform. It's the enshittification of textbooks by destroying an industry like that. So there's a lot of really interesting and fascinating examples throughout the book. And I think if you're someone like myself that maybe grew up in those early days of the golden age of the internet, I got a bit nostalgic reading this and hearing kind of the stories of how things used to be versus how they are now, how everything is subscription and how it's kind of worse for society. So it's a book that spoke to me where I am in my life. So if you're in that, millennial bracket, I think if you're a millennial, you can relate to a lot of these examples. Maybe if you're Gen Z, this is in the before times, but I thought it was a great read and very educational for what is happening to our internet. It's not so much a prescription of here's how to fix it. It's more, I guess, awareness of where things, how we went wrong and what happened. So yeah, it's just more of a, I guess, an informational read to understand and add to your knowledge, and just something to consider. So it's, that said, it's not a textbook kind of itself where here's the problem and here's the solution. It's more, I guess, kind of investigative journalism where here's what's happening and you're sort of left to draw your own conclusions of how we can possibly fix it, or even if there is a way to fix it, but just to be aware of the problem and aware that it's happening, so you can make informed choices as a consumer to maybe support things that aren't so much, subscription as a service, even though that's so hard nowadays. Yeah, everything's subscription nowadays. You're locked into systems, you're locked into DRM on your books. You can't, because it's all digital. So there's convenience factor, but there's also, that's the pro, but there's also the cons that come with the convenience as the provider monetizes these things in order to make back that cost for hosting and stuff. And I understand of course there's hosting costs and there's other costs associated, but we are in just a different world in this enshittified internet. So interesting read, and I think it's worth checking out just to see where we've come from. And if you're interested in tech and systems and platforms like Meta and how it all works and its impact on society, I think this is be just a good read to increase your general knowledge. So that is my thoughts and just a feeling. It's not so much a review. It's hard to give it a numeric number. It was the best book ever. No, it was just informative. It's like reading a magazine article or understanding just the topics. And that's Enshittification by Cory Doctorow. So I do recommend it if you're interested in this and you want to experience the good times again, the golden age of the internet, and see how far we've fallen as an internet society. So thanks for watching this brief review and thoughts and feelings on Enshittification. My name is Zach, and hope you tune into the next video, which is probably going to be something sci-fi and fantasy related. So take care and have a great day.